Okay, so just a few things before we jump into our part 2 of our site building session, and that is we need to do a bit of debugging. Okay, because here on my screen you can see that I've got the homepage set up. Now, there are 2 problems with this setup. Okay, 2 problems. It looks good, but I discovered, especially when I produced the show notes from part 1. So that's a bit of a, well, let me just actually show you that. Webwash.net. So if you have a look at, if you go to Webwash, there are show notes for the last part, and I've also broken out and put in like a table of contents so you can find things. And I've also created the steps. Now, this doesn't follow the video exactly because it's very hard to follow the video exactly, but I've just gone through and just specified each step that I've done. But you really should be watching the video and probably just following these steps. But here you can see everything, how to set everything up. I've made sure that you can go ahead and just follow along. So yes, just follow this if you want to figure out how to do things. Now, we have actually discovered a few bugs. Well, I've discovered a few bugs and another viewer discovered a bug. So the first thing I will show you is, let me just go back to my browser. All right, so here's the homepage that we created last week with the card components. Yes, it looks good. It resizes nicely. So far, so good. Let me just bring up, do I have the code there? No, I don't. Okay. But if we go and click on layout and then give that a second, and then okay, so first of all, you'll notice that there's no contextual links. So there's no way of us to actually modify this, okay? So we can't actually modify these cards. The other thing is clicking and dragging doesn't work like it does here. Okay, see, I can actually click and drag this. I can't click and drag this here. Okay, well, that technically doesn't work. Now, another thing which a viewer actually picked up on last week was that when you install Token and you use one of these display suite layouts in a section, you get a fatal error. So let me go find it. Drupal display suite. So the person actually put it under the Token project, but I did a bit of debugging. And this is a good thing about doing this like live streaming, is that I was able to do a bit of debugging and realize, well, no, it's not Token that's the problem. It's actually display suite that's the problem. And if I go over here, yes, you can see that there's this ticket here. So I just updated this ticket, put in this error message. So right now, if you install Token and you're using display suite and you add a display suite layout as a section and you have Token installed, you will get a fatal error. Now, I didn't pick up on that because I didn't have Token installed, but Token is a very important module. I would use it on a proper website. So I've gone along here and just moved it along, set it to active, and if you have a look, it is this bit of code. So this only happens when you use a layout on Layout Builder, not when you're using it in the managed display. Okay, that's the big difference. So you can still use display suite on a managed display page, and that is when I say that, that's essentially, if you come along here, content types, and then go manage display, that is on one of these, okay, pages where you don't have display suites set up and installed. So you can still use that with Token. But for some reason, you get like undefined function error or something like that around that. So that's the first. So those are the few bugs. What else? I stopped using Lando. I'm using just a local version of MAMP purely for performance reasons. I have nothing against Lando. I think it's great. But when I'm streaming, and this is purely because I'm streaming, if I was actually recording a video and I wasn't using OBS to stream, then I probably record the video using Lando. But because I'm just doing a lot of things, Docker just goes absolutely crazy and wants to use 200% CPU for 20 minutes. That's what I noticed last time, and I just don't want to waste people's time. So I've gone back to just my standard stack, but you can use whatever stack you want. And I'm looking at my list here. So yeah, we can't edit, can't reorder, and there's Token issues. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just refactor. a few things. And this is a thing about Drupal, and this is something that I like to always mention to people, especially when they get started, is that when you start building a Drupal site and you go down one direction, I'm not talking about the band, I'm talking about, going down one direction, you often change your approach. And you may try one or two different approaches, because think about this, okay? In Drupal, if you want to modify a layout, okay, if you want to modify an entity, there's 10 different ways of modifying an entity. You can use, and I'm talking about actually just rendering out and displaying the entity. There are multiple ways that it can be done. Oh, there's just a comment here. There's just a comment here on YouTube. Vaguely remember encountering a bug about a year ago. Yeah. So, and this is, so there's a comment about Layout Builder. Yes, Layout Builder it requires a bit of finessing. Let me tell you that. Let me just make sure I've got everything. The right mic is selected. Yeah. Okay, it does require a bit of finessing, but I really want to force myself to use Layout Builder, because once you do use it, the UI is actually pretty good. It's amazing. But I did discover a few issues with Layout Builder, because this part 2 that we're going to do now, even though last week I said everything's unscripted, unplanned, I don't know how it's going to go, but for this part 2, I've planned a little bit. I've actually gone ahead and implemented what I'll show you today, just to make sure everything works. And one issue that I hit upon, and I'll talk about it later on when we build the carousel, is that there is a bug with paragraphs on a block type if you are using it as an inline block. So I went ahead and created a block type, added a paragraph field to the block type, and then I tried to add that block as an inline block into Layout Builder. Everything was great. I was like, oh my God, it's going to work. It's going to work. Click on save, and there was an error regarding language settings. So there is that issue. So I had to kind of adjust the approach, but that's the thing with Drupal. You often take one approach, it doesn't work, and you have to shift. And I know I've done this on a lot of websites where you go down one path, it doesn't work, and you shift. And that's why when people ask me to kind of estimate things, oh, how long is this going to take in Drupal? It's like, it depends, Do you want a full UI, nice paragraphs, or do you want to use Layout Builder, or do you want to use this, you want to use that? But the whole point of these live stream series is to just see the process that I go through to build these things. All right, so the issue with token kind of is a showstopper in my opinion, especially with using Layout Builder, especially using a display suite layout in Layout Builder. Now we could, if I was implementing this on an actual production website, I could look at this issue, remove this, create a patch, add it to Composer, and then just deal with it that way if I really wanted to use display suite. But I think the other solution now is to write a bit of custom code, because unfortunately, I don't know how people use Drupal without writing custom code, but we're going to write a bit of custom code, and we're going to implement our own layout. And I'll show you how to do that. And I do plan, this week, I do want to get the website that I am building, I do want to actually make that public and get it on GitHub so people can just download and install the site and see what we have built. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it, but I do want to get it out there so that when people do follow along, they can see, oh, is that how you implement it? And just go ahead and implement it. All right, so what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and create a custom module, because that's the first thing we need to do. Now, to create a custom module, we can write code. Yeah? Oh, well, we can't just do it by hand, but we're going to use Drush for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in Drush generate. And if you type in Drush generate, you'll see a whole bunch of generate commands. A lot of them, okay? And the one that we want is this one, okay? So let's type in Drush generate. Oh no, Drush generate module and hit enter. Okay, now we have to come up with the Drush name, and we can enter in, I'll just give this www like webwash bootstrap 4_layouts. Now this is a module, it's not a theme. I just want to clarify that. Okay, it is a module and it is not a theme. So I really suck at naming things, and that's the most important thing when it comes to Drupal. You need to name things properly. So I'm just going to call it this, but we can call it whatever we want. So Bootstrap, did I spell that right? Yes, I did. So Bootstrap for layouts. Now, the good thing about this Drush generate is that it prompts you, and then it automatically just saves everything in the custom directory, in the modules directory. All right, Bootstrap for layouts, custom. Let me just type in webwash. Dependencies, install file, no. Libraries.yaml, no. Permissions, nah. Event subscriber, no. Block plugin, no. Controller, no. Settings, no. All right, sweet. That is installed. So now if I open up PHP Storm, go to, what's been added here? Okay, go to here, modules, and, let me just create a folder called custom, pop it into here, and then we have this module here, okay? It's pretty straightforward, there's nothing to it. You don't technically need the .modules file now in Drupal. And, all right, there's another person that popped in. Hello. All right, good. Getting some nice, getting some good interaction here with the live stream. Especially because I am doing it pretty much 12 hours difference than last time. Because I thought I want to do it first thing in the morning, but I'll see how it goes. I'll see how how much background noise gets picked up. Because doing it late at night, it gets a bit tiring for me. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. So in Drupal 8, you don't actually need a .module file, but it's there, and we are going to use it in this case because we are going to add in a preprocessor. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to create a custom layout. And instead of me just chucking in code and showing you and just pasting in 50 lines of code and be like, all right, there you go, done, move on. I want to show you the process that I go through of actually figuring things out, because that's the thing with Drupal. You spend a lot of time seeing how other modules do things because you can't actually keep everything in your head. Okay, perfect example. And this is a thing that I'm kind of on the fence of with Drupal 8. In Drupal 7, you had a lot of simple functions such as node save, node delete. But now everything goes through a service. So you need to load up the, entity type manager, and the code required to do a lot of these things is a lot more. So instead of just a simple one-liner, it's a two-line or three-liner. But the thing is, though, it's hard to remember these functions. That's the thing about any type of framework. Really, it's just got nothing to do with Drupal or PHP or anything. It's like you want to try and be able to remember these things. And so in Drupal, I spent actually a lot of time just seeing how things are done. So what I want to do now is reuse a layout. Okay, so we're going to copy and reuse a layout, because what we're going to do, okay, is let's go back into here and let's go back to our site and click on layout. Okay, so here is the website that we made previously. So if I let me add in another section, and I'll put in a 2-column. Let me just put in a 1-column, okay? Call this one test because we're not going to be using it. So if I chuck this one in, and see, I can't even move these things. All right, forget that. Let's forget that for now. Now, before we move on, I should have mentioned this. Now, the reason why we can't actually click on the contextual filters, so notice here, we have a contextual filter there, okay? But we don't have a contextual filter here, which then stops us from modifying things. The reason why that happens is because I screwed up. And this is because I had no idea why it's used. And that's how I pretty much figure out most things in Drupal. So if we go here to custom and go to template, block layout, and then implement this. Remember last week we removed the wrapping div around that. So if I search for, block.twig, what is it? Not HTML. All right. So if we go to classy, if we have a look at this, last week we simply copied this and then removed these attributes. Well, the problem is that the contextual link module adds in attributes to this div, which then allows us to modify things. So if I was to chuck this back in, okay, Save that. I'll probably have to do drush cr. And then I come back in here and then hit refresh. Give that a second or two. Okay. We get the contextual links. Hooray. Still can't move it. And I know why that happens. Anyway, we still get the contextual, we now get the contextual links, but the whole card deck style is broken, because remember last week we covered, and let me increase this so it can be seen. Whoa, that's a lot of markup. You can see, oh, Drupal. So if we have a look here, where is that? Oh my God. Card deck? No. I want that one. So yeah, this div, you can see this div we removed. No, not that one. It is this one. So we went ahead and removed this div. So you can see that there's a lot of magic that happens here regarding the contextual filter and, the contextual links. So we have to put this thing back in. But by pushing one thing down, another thing comes up. So we fixed one thing by breaking another thing. So we're going to have to stop using essentially the card deck. So where is that? That's somewhere. It's probably not here somewhere. Anyway, we're going to have to stop using this card deck functionality that Bootstrap offers us. So if we have a look here, so where is that card deck inline? Yeah, because as I covered last week, for the card deck to work, you cannot have a div wrapping the card element. You need to have card deck and then straight away card. So the best thing to do is to just avoid using the card deck class, and we're just going to implement our own grid using just Bootstrap grids. But what I want to do is I want to create a reusable row layout that we can actually reuse for any component. So when you come here, add in a section, you will see our custom layout here on the right, called BS row. That's what I'll call it, but you can call it whatever you want. And then you select and say, okay, I want to have one column, or I want two columns, or I want the cards, or I want the cards to be spread across 3 columns. So then the standard grid system will then just display the cards in 3 columns or 1 column, or however many columns you have selected. Now I've maxed it out to, I think, 5. And all we are doing is adding in a bunch of classes. And I'll show you, and you'll see the code. Now, on a full-on website, we have 20 different components. Okay, you may want to tweak it, but it's actually a pretty good solution. Okay, it's a pretty good solution, and I was happy with it when I practiced it yesterday, because I spent most of the day yesterday doing it, and it's a pretty nifty solution. Okay, so what we're going to do is create our layouts. Now, the best way to start things off, in my opinion, is to just when it comes to the layout, is to see how other layouts are created. So one layout that I do like is this 2-column one, because I do like the fact that you can select a different width, column widths. So we're going to reuse a similar style like this, but instead of the 50 by 50%, it's going to be column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, and then we're going to have just a bit of magic in there to kind of tweak things. But this will be code, so I apologize. There will be code. Yeah, there's nothing much I can do about that, because I do think this is a good solution. So I think, yeah, this live stream is a bit more advanced than just basic. There, hello. Another one saying hello from Serbia. Yeah, what's up, mate? Yeah, what's up? All right. Okay. So the best way to copy over this thing is to first of all find that layout. Now, the way I like to find things is, now I know where it is, but I'll show you a good way of searching for things. So what you want to do is you want to find some type of setting like this, okay? And then you come into core, you do a big old find in path, and you search for things. Okay, just give it a second. Oh, I didn't find it. All right, there we go. All right, found something. All right, cool. So now if I click this on, you can see that it is in, where is it? Layout Builder, Source, Plugin, Layout. Okay. And it is in here. All right. So what, if we scroll down, we have this layout builder.layouts.yaml. So when you define your layouts, you need to define this layout.yaml. Always need to define it. So what we first need to do is we need to create this layouts.yaml. We then need to define our layout using YAML format. And then we need to, because it's calling in this class, we need to also create a custom class which uses this multi-width layout as the base. So essentially, we're just going to copy this. So we'll just copy one of these, call it something else, and then we just need to implement these changes and then add in a bit of custom code, bit of extra custom code. Okay, and then of course the actual layout. If we have a look, so the actual layout is stored in layouts, 2-column section, and this is where the actual magic happens. Having a beer, mate. That's it. There's just somebody commenting saying, having a beer. Awesome. Well, it's a bit early for a beer in Australia when it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, I don't drink. I haven't drank for a couple of years now, but it's a bit early anyway. Well, no, it's past 5 somewhere in the world. That was my excuse in the past when I used to drink during the day. And so here is the actual Twig layout. So there's really 3 parts, okay, for us. There is defining the layout in the YAML file. Then there is the class, which is optional. You don't have to define the class, but we want to define it ourselves, okay? And then there is the actual Twig template. You can ship a CSS file, but we're not going to do that. We don't have to do that. Luckily for us, we don't have to, but you can do that. So the first thing we'll do is what I like to do, I just like to copy things across. Totally copy things across. And go to modules. And then just go, where is it? Paste. Where's this paste? Call this one. Oh, actually, dub. Bootstrap 4_layouts. And then, let me just have a look. Make sure everything's set up properly. And then, let's just get rid of, these ones. And I'll call this one content. We only have one content region. So let me just get rid of these regions. So content, first region, content. Oh, wait a minute. That should be a machine name. Content, layout. Now this one I wasn't quite sure because if I should put in the module name before it. I'll just call it BS row. So Bootstrap, BS row. So layouts could be, we'll just call this one BS. So all I'm doing is just replicating, just copying the same thing, okay? And then I'll call this BS row. Layout builder to section. Okay, library we don't need. Get rid of that. Category, so that's how it's categorized. Let's just call it, let me put my thing in there. So dub Bootstrap 4. This is looking good. So we've defined our machine name. Now, the tricky part is you kind of need to make sure that everything is exact. Now, you may get a fatal error. If that's the case, look at the fatal error. Make sure you have error handling turned on, and it will pretty much tell you if you can't find a template or something like that. Okay, so make sure you do that. So everything is looking good. Let me just change this to layout. What is it? BS row layout. So this is the class we need to enter in. That's fine. We can do that. I'm just trying to think. Anything else? And a cool thing you can do. Let me just show you. Wait, is that how you do a source? All right. Okay. So that is good. Let me just have a look up the top here. So we have layout builder. Yeah, where is this? Source. So we need to create this source plugin. Okay. What we need to do is create this file. So what I'll do is I'll create a folder here called source. Was it SRC? I always forget. What is it? SRC, source? Yeah. CSRC, yeah, it is. Now, one thing you can do in PHP Storm, now, I'm not trying to sell you PHP Storm, but what you can do is, or maybe, can you do that? I know if you go File and type in plugin, oh no, what is it? Plugin, layout, bs row, layout.php, it will actually go ahead and create the folder structure for you, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to do that, oh, create plugin, oh, create layout, oh, create this, create that. Does it for you. Win-win. Okay, so if we have a look up the top here, we have plugin, layout, and let's select this 2-column. And the best thing to do is just grab this, copy it across. And this is what I actually, this is a lot of Drupal site building for me. And then PHP Storm just picks up on that. Okay, everything's fine. And now, this is, well, no, we need to change this as well. So, okay, Bootstrap for layouts. But then we need to add this in as a use case. So multi-step layout form, done. All right. Because now if I click on that, it finds it. Cool. And let me just change this so I know it's getting picked up. It's another thing I like to do. Just put in something here that I know that it is getting picked up. Okay, so that is done. Configurable. Of course, let's be correct and configurable bootstrap row, bootstrap for row layout, done. Okay, there are a lot of parts to this. I'm not going to lie to you. There are a lot of parts to just building a layout, and this is where code generators really help. I think that's and maybe there is. You could probably have a look here, like Drush generate grep layout. Let's have a look. Oh, there is a generate layout one. Anyway, there is a generate layout. See, you can use that, but I think there is, okay. I've probably discussed this in previous videos about using code generators. It's great once you know what you're doing to use them, but in the beginning, I think it's important to actually get your head around a lot of the APIs. I would recommend that you just create it from scratch because you learn, oh, this class is required. This is how it's all set up. You get a better understanding of it if you do it the hard way. And we're going to do it the hard way. Why not? Okay. So I've got that in there. We've got this. We have this layout. This is looking good. Is this pointing? Let's have a look and see. This is pointing to the right section. What I like to do is just search for it. Yep, it finds it. I can confirm that it finds it. And now what we need to do is create a layout. Where is that folder? Layouts. All right, let's just copy that and we can just delete the rest of it. All right, delete this. And all we're doing is just renaming this. So what's that? BS row. BS row. Okay, done that. Change that. Yeah, Drupal Viking. Hello from Drupal Viking in the comments. Drupal Viking, awesome. So layout. So now we need to match this layout needs to match this layout name right here. So simple thing to do, grab that and then make sure you simply replace BS row in there. And then if we click on here, okay, so because we only have a single row, let's just leave this as it is. Call this one content. Now, this is going to be a bit weird that it's content, but hey, whatever. We can change that later. Content. This is very important. As I was mentioning earlier, when you use a display suite layout, the drag and drop functionality isn't working, and I'm not sure why. Oh, let me just add that in as well. Was that right? Region, content, yep. I'm not really sure why. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just double check that. get the proper markup, because I do know that there is another one that has a single column. Layouts, single col, content. So here you can see content. So I pretty much just copied this one as well. All right, let's just grab this. So if you go to layout discovery, you'll see that there are layouts in here. So let me just copy that across so that it is correct. All right. When you remove this, the drag and drop functionality does not work. Don't know why. Don't know why, really. It's one of those things that I'm like, somebody all smarter than me figured this stuff out. There must be a reason why. Okay. So we have our layouts.yaml. We have our source, which is correct. We have and then we have our actual template. Now it's the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and let me just close this stuff off and go to extend and install the module. And now let's watch for a fatal error. Oh, let me just fix that up so it's a little nicer. Where's this? All right, that's better. Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's looking good. Okay, let's refresh. Let's hope there's no fatal error. It's too early. All that stuff. Just make sure everything's looking good. Anyway, moment of truth. Dun, dun, dun. Is it going to explode? Is it going to explode? Is it going to explode? No, still going, still going. I know you can, I know you can. Come on. Yeah, okay, sweet. Okay, that's installed. Now, let's just refresh this layout page and we should see, if I click on add section, we see a fatal error. I know it's not working. I know it's not working. Brilliant. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is the error down here. So you can see exception class response does not exist. Okay, so we cannot find this layout. Oh, I know why. Wait, what? There you go. There's always one thing. See, that's why you want to turn on error handling so you can see it. Done. Do a drush rebuild. Now go in there, refresh. Add section. Woohoo! Add row, and we can see that this is getting picked up. Perfect. So now if I add something in there, okay, let's just add something in there. And then if I click on, let's just move this one to our new section. And you can see that we have now drag and drop functionality. See? Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. You can click and move it around. Anyway. Okay, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. So now what I need to do is we need to change the markup a little bit. This will get technical, and I do apologize for this, but I think it's just good to learn. So we first need to get rid of this. Okay, this is no longer needed because we were overriding this template to simply remove this div, but this div is needed for the contextual links. So for people joining us now, you won't see this contextual link if you don't have this div, which we removed in the last session. So let's just go ahead and let me just delete this stuff. It is gone. Do a drush CR, so that is working, and do a full refresh and make sure everything's working. Okay. So if we now save this, where's the top? Let's make sure it's actually saving. It is. We should see our class up the top here, okay? So this is, I hope everyone can see that. This is, so it's getting here. So what we need to do now is we need to add, so we need to now convert this into our grid system instead of this type of, wait a minute, let me just have a quick look here. So card deck, card. What we essentially need to do, well, actually, let me bring that back down so I can demonstrate what it's going to look like. Now I need to move this one back to second region. Did that go there? No, that didn't. Let me do that again. Move that back in. All right. So if we hit that, click on save, and then do that. Okay. So you can see here, it's not really aligned nicely. What we essentially need to do is we need to make this a row. Well, this can be a row. And then these need to be large 12, I believe. So then, oh no, sorry, no. What is it? 3, 4, no, 3 columns divided by, yeah, so 4, 8, 12. Okay, yeah, no, that's it. So that needs to be that column, okay, and then comes along here. All right. So now, if we resize, you'll see straight away once it gets down on mobile, it resize on tablet. At this breakpoint, it goes full width, which is exactly what we want. Okay. Look, it looks nice there, goes full width, and we are done. Because if we have a look, let's have a look at our design that we're following. Let me bring that across. And what I'll do is, where is it? I'm just finding the design. All right. If we bring this across, you'll see that they aren't using the actual, what is it? Card deck. They're setting in this height, which is 100%, so we can add this in as well. Well, this one here, sorry. But you can see that they are just adding in this margin bottom 4, which means it's margin bottom of 4 units or something like that. That just adds a margin bottom here, okay? So you can see it adds a nice little margin bottom. So we need to implement something similar. Now, the tricky part is where do you add these classes? How do you add these classes into Drupal? Now, we can do it through CSS or Sass. But when I tried it that way, when I was testing this out, it just meant that a lot of our logic will be in CSS, where I think it's best to do it in PHP. No matter what, we need to write code, okay? You know, it can be Sass or it can be PHP, but I think in our case, let's just do it in code. So first thing we need to do is let's change this width up the top here. So let's go back here and let's change this width so it's column 1, column 2, up to column 5. Okay, so 1 col, okay, and let's change this to 1 column. And then I'll go da. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go to 4, 5. 5. Okay. All right. And so now we can select that stuff. Okay. The next thing we need to do is if we have a look at this class. All right, you can see that this is abstracted, protected method, which is fine. We need to get into here because you'll see that this width gets added, the actual selected width gets added to the class essentially. But what we need to do is we need to add in the classes to the actual blocks. Now, the blocks are getting loaded in the section. So what we need to do is we need to see if we can get access to the actual blocks in the section or the region. And what I'll do is I'll do a bit of, well, let me just put this in. So let's just get rid of this, put in a new section, call this BS row, make it a 2-column, and we'll call this one BS row so we can actually see what it looks like. And then if I move this one up the top, and then I'll also move this one up the top as well. Okay. All right. So we save the layout, and if we inspect, we should see, all right, we can see now our 2 columns. So if we have a look at our code, let's go back here. Because we selected this, okay, and because we have extended the multi-width layout base, you can see here in the build function, it is grabbing the actual column widths, which is the configuration drop-down box, and then it is simply adding it to the class, to the actual layout as a class. And you can see here, it's getting added right here. So we could add in something like ... And let's see if that actually adds it. We'll probably have to rebuild the cache. We're going to be doing drush CR a fair bit today. If we rebuild that and refresh, give it a second, we should see, there you go. And this is another thing that I love doing. I just love chucking little things in there to see if that, okay, you know, I just love to chuck little things in there to see if the actual text appears, because then at least you know, okay, the class is coming in from this area. So we can see here that this little bit of gobbledygook is appearing. Perfect. So now what I want to do is I want to see, so this method, this build method seems to be the main, well, it's actually part of the layout interface. So if we have a look at the documentation, build a render array for the layout with regions. So this is the main one. You can see here that there's in this interface, there's only 2 methods. Get, plugin definition, and build. Build is the magic one where the magic happens. And you can see here, it just implements the parent build method, and this one's on the default. This is where, so this is where it all happens. So what I'll do now is let me put in, let me just put in a drop point, a breakpoint in there, and then I do know, well, I need to do a rebuild because the results are cached, and if you put in a breakpoint, it's not going to pick up because the results are cached. Come in here, and then refresh, and we should give it a second, and hopefully Xdebug will pick things up. And okay, sweet, here we go. Okay, so Xdebug has picked it up. So if we now go through all of this, we can see, I hope you can see that. Let me just have a look. It's probably, I'm not sure if I can actually zoom in on that. Nah. Anyway, if we increase that, we can see that we have content. All right, so we have 2 content items. So regions. All right, so we do get a regions variable come in with the actual content. So this is good. This is exactly what we want. And what we want to do is, this is inline. Okay, so, okay. So what we want to do here is we want to add in an attribute. We want to add this, where is it? Settings, where's this? Attributes, build. Oh no, let me continue. All right, okay. We essentially want to add one of these, this attributes array, to this actual inline, to these inline block card templates. And the actual class will have col large 12 and so on and so forth. That's what we want to do. So the first thing we'll need to do is let's figure out a way to load up the regions in a nice clean way. We could just loop through it, but I want to find out a nice clean way to loop through the regions. So let me just go through here, plugin definition. Okay, build. So you can see here, region, grabs the name. Okay, so this figures out. Okay. All right, so let me just grab this. All right, well, let's go back here. What we need to do is we need to implement. So I'm going to do a bit of PHP storming right now. So if I press, Command N, override method build, and we build it. Okay, so we're pretty much overriding this build method here. So everything. So let me just get rid of this. All right, so let me just go back here. Oh, go back here. All right, grab this. Chuck this in there. So this one must loop through everything, I hope. Best way to test that out. Drush CR, drop a breakpoint, turn on testing. Let's see if this actually works. Cool. Comes along here. Wait, is this the right one? Yep. And you can see here, it's coming along. And then it's going in. Okay. All right. And then it's coming along here. All right. It's making changes to this build, which we shouldn't do. But you can see that the regions, it's coming along here. Okay. Something. Region name, content. Okay. So that is looping. Perfect. So let's just chuck that off. Let's remove that breakpoint. Let's go back to here. Where is it? Multi. No, okay. Remove that breakpoint. Perfect. So instead of that, what we need to do is we need to loop through the regions. So let's do a for each. Because, well, let me just. Oh man, this is one thing I don't like about. Let me just go through this. It's one thing that I don't like about debugging is that sometimes it's hard to actually remember what was outputted. So what I like to do, and this is what I do a lot, let's just add a breakpoint in again. Add in Drush CR. I can actually turn off caching and avoid doing this, but it really slows down the site for everything else. So let's put another breakpoint in there. Let's do the cache. And then if we have a look at regions, all right, let me just go in here. All right, let me just open this up. And what I do is I actually take a screenshot of this just so I can remember, that it's, okay, it's regions, it's content, it's this and that, because it's just sometimes hard. Unless PHP Storm has a feature where you can kind of snapshot, you can do like a snapshot and then just get back to that later on, because you can't actually make changes. I'm not aware that you can make changes while you are in debug. It fails. So here I've got a little screenshot because I use Snagit. So here I've got a screenshot of the variable. So now what I need to do is we need to loop through. So essentially what we need to do is we need to loop through these, the content arrays. Oh, sorry. We need to loop through the blocks and then just add in an attributes and then a particular class. Okay. So that's all we need to do. All. It's going to be a bit of custom code. So the first thing we'll do is let's write in for each. So for each. Okay. And then, what is it? Regions. Then it is, so I'm going to just copy, so regions. So regions, then content. Okay, so I can see content there, and so we have the region name. So here I actually store it. So that'll be region name, and then it's as ID, because I want the ID, which is the UUID. So if I bring this back, technically, well, let's just put in UUID because that's the UUID. Let's put in UUID, and then it's going to be block. Okay. Do that. Test equals block. All right, this is what I love to do. Chuck this in there. Do a drush rebuild. Pop a breakpoint. Do another. And do refresh. Okay, so we can see here that... Oh, no. This is actually working. So if I now continue on, you can see that it's also changing as well. Okay, so this has actually found it, which is great. You can see this test. Is this test block here? Okay, block is there, but you can also see that test is getting populated with the actual block. Okay, so that is working. Now what we need to do is we need to jump on the regions. So we need to jump on the regions array and then add in an attributes here. So what we're going to do, let me just close this, remove this. So what we're going to do is let's type in, let's grab this. Regions. There is a bit of background noise. I apologize if it's coming through the mic. Kids are going a bit nuts. because they are home from daycare because of the whole situation. I don't want to mention the word because I'm just sick of seeing the situation. It's absolutely everywhere and I'm sick of seeing it. So I'm not going to mention it. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to change region name, UUID, and then attributes, if I can spell that correctly, attributes, then class, new, and then let's just chuck this in and be like, whatever, okay? Okay, cool, chuck this in. All right, because this prepares, so essentially what we are doing here, okay, is we are loading up the regions because I don't want to hard code the word content. You want to try and avoid hard coding things, all right? Because I may want to convert this into a base class and use it for multiple layouts, and in future layouts we may not have a region called content. So I really want to avoid hard coding the word content. Every single time I need to hard code a kind of like a machine name or something, I kind of cringe because I want to really avoid it. So all this is doing is this is grabbing all the region names. It's checking that the regions actually exist. Then we are looping through the blocks, grabbing the blocks, and then just adding in attributes. Okay, so this should add in a class called Ivan class. Let me put in something decent, and then just simply add the attributes class with the class value of Ivan dash class. Okay, we refresh, we do drush cr. Now I could just jump into the front end and have a look, but I want to do things a little differently. Let's pop in let's pop in a breakpoint. Hit refresh. This comes, okay, perfect. And let's just follow through. Yoink. Yoink. All right, we're coming through. So now this regions should change. And you'll see it will change to blue. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, no, this one changes. That's correct. And we can see we have this attribute. Perfect. So now we should see an attribute below here if I continue. All right, we have an attribute there with a class like that. So that's all working. Perfect. We now turn off debugging. Let's go to the page and let's see if there's any errors. Let's refresh again just to make sure there's no errors. Open it up, have a look, and now it is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Now, where is this? Class. So wait a minute. What am I? Here we go. Ivan class. Perfect. Can I search for this? Ivan class. Oh, okay, I found it. Okay, so you can see here we have our layout, we have our region, we have our class. Perfect. But now we need to do just a bit more logic. What we essentially need to do is we need to add in the class depending on what's been selected up here. So if one column has been added, we need to add in col large 12. If two columns have been added, so if two columns has been selected, we need to select 6, because if content's going to be 2 columns, now when I say column, I mean like the individual column itself. Like, so if you want if you want 2 cards to appear in 2 columns, then from a grid system, each card needs to utilize 6 columns wide, because in Bootstrap, now this might be a bit confusing for people and I do apologize for this, but this is just the grid system in Drupal. Now, of course, my nose is extra itchy when I shouldn't be touching my face. If we have a look here, and this is grid system 101, but please, yeah, it's best to look for it yourself. Is there an example on the grid system here? No, there isn't. Okay. So a quick 101. Let me scroll down, try and find equal widths. No, that's not it. Terrible example. Okay. No, that's terrible example. Let me continue. Responsive. All right, cool. So here, okay, if we have a look here. So the best way to think of the grid system is that in any type of grid system, a grid system equals, well, most of them equal to 12 columns wide. So here you can see that this one, this grid here is utilizing eight columns, so it's the widest, and then the next one is utilizing 4 columns. So when we specify this, okay, if you want two cards to appear next to each other, okay, so let me see if I'm doing that correctly. Yep, one there, one there. That means that each card needs to utilize 6 columns in the grid system, okay? If you want a single card to appear across the whole page, that means the card needs to utilize 12 Bootstrap columns, okay, in the grid system. If you want to utilize 3, now this is where your maths has to come in. Now for our North American viewers, I'm talking about math, but I like to say maths with an S, plural. Oh no, it is the English way of speaking, the British way of speaking. So maths. So you have to do a bit of maths and kind of calculate things. So 3 divided by 12 is 4. So 4, 8, 12. If you want to have 4, so if you want to have then 4 cards next to each other, they have to then utilize 3 grid columns. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on and so forth. Well, actually, let's remove this 5 one. Yep, let's remove the 5 one to make it easy. And then, of course, it is... And then the 4th one is 3, yeah. Yeah, 3 columns. And then the 4th column is... then if you select 4 columns, it is... I'm just looking at my notes. It is 3 columns wide. Okay. But the tricky part is we need to conditionally add this in. All right? We need to conditionally add it in. So, how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to create another array that maps these values to the classes that we want. So what I'll do is I'll just create another method here. So I'll call this one protected. Can I actually, let me see if I can do something lazy. So implement method. Override. Can you actually implement a class? Getter, setter. No, you can't. Anyway, whatever. I'm sure. Method. There must be a way to implement. Anyway, whatever. Protected function. Let's call this one get column. Can't spell for some reason. Get column with. Let me just double check that. Get column with. Yep. And then here we go ahead and let's define our col. Okay. Define an array. And then this one will be, well, let's just grab this. So if col1 is selected, then we want, what do we want? Col large 12. And then let's put in a margin bottom. Let's just copy paste this again. So I don't have to waste time. Okay, and then this one's, what's it, 6. This one's 4. This one's 3. Okay. So far, so good. Now what we need to do is we need to get this selected value, okay? So we need to get this actual selected value. Now the best way of doing that is if we have a look at our width, you can see that it gets added into this configuration property. So what we can do is we'll come back here. We can say return cols. What's a columns? Let me just change it to. Let me just change it to column, and then because it's passing the actual key here of the array, and we're matching the same key, we can't just say this configuration. And then column widths. That's it. And then up the top here, we just implement get column width. So when this loads up, it grabs the selected column. If it's to column, finds this and then returns that. So if all is said and done, we refresh that. We do a cache rebuild. We then go back here. We refresh. This is the moment of truth. All right, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's not, let's have a look. It's not floating. Whatever. Let's have a quick look. Right. All right, so you can see here. Yep. Okay. All right. We're getting there. All right, we are getting there. So it's adding these in. What I think we need to do is we need to add a row somewhere. Hey, there we go. So now this is working. We need to add a row into this, into this element. And that's easy because if I remember correctly, let me have a look at my, okay, yep. So if I remember correctly, we do have the Twig template. So all we need to do, row, is pop this in, hit refresh, and then this should work. Okay. And then if we refresh, now we do have that margin bottom, which gives us that nice little space down there, which is great. It's looking very nice. Okay, so now if we go back here, layout, and if we were to select, let's move now this one and see what happens. Up the top, the grid system automatically chucks it below because it should be two columns, because it should be 2 columns up the top. So you'll have 2 and then 2 going down the actual screen. So if we hit save, we should see, there we go. We have the third one there below on the next row or the next line essentially. And then if we go ahead, but most importantly is that the ordering works. Now it is a bit flaky, and I have noticed sometimes it duplicates things. But if we edit this, we can say, well, actually, I want it 3 columns. Hit update, and it automatically resizes. And then we just save, and we're done. And now the good thing about this row that we have created is that we can reuse it. Okay, we can. Let me just remove this one. We can go ahead and reuse it for any type of content because it is very generic. Now, before we move on to things, let's fix this up, okay? Because I know if I add this in, let me guess, I need to put in a col 12. I think if you specify the columns, if you specify col-12, that means it'll be just 12 columns wide on all breakpoints. All right, so that's now much better. All right, it's much better. So let's now fix that up. All right, now the best way to do that is through Sass. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go in to our CSS. Now let's go here, custom layouts. Well, sometimes that jumps. Okay, so let's type in, what is it? row_row.css. Yes, create file. And then if I type in, let's, what is it? Let's have a quick look. So the actual class on this is block add. So let's just copy this. And then let's copy that in there for now. Well, should be block, right? Yep. That's that. But I want to make sure that we're selecting it. So what if we scroll up, region, what's this one? Section. Let's just add in section. Okay. And then all we need to do, let's have a look and see if we can implement the grids through Sass. So if we go here, you can see grids in. Okay. So what we can do is you can actually implement the grid system through classes, but you can also do it through Sass. So here you can see, okay, you make column ready and then you just give it a width. All right, so if I just grab this, well, let me turn on npm watch. So where's this? So I'm just going to use a PHP Storm thing. You can actually run npm packages or npm scripts from here. And then give it a second. All right, perfect. So then if I go, where is it? My code. Yep. Go back to row. Type in that, and then what does it include? What's the markup? Make col 12. Okay. Oh, nose is a little itchy. Oh, okay. The next thing I need to do is import it in as well. So come along here. Row dash row, import in. Oh, you can actually see now it's compiling. Done. Come along here and then go refresh. Do a hard refresh. And now it is working. So if we inspect it, you can see that, yep, column layout, it's been inspected. All right, perfect. So that is now, that's been now fixed up, which is great. Another thing I'll quickly show you is that you can, if we change this to 4 columns, right? Now we have space for a 4th one. We can just add in any type of block. Because we've added the grid to the actual inline block div, you can add in any of these block elements and they should float. Now I say should, you know, test it yourself, but they should float nicely. So if I was to add in, if I was to go here and add in a basic block, so homepage text, welcome, ... to our awesome site. So if I was to put this in and then click on add block, you can see it's all there. I can even resize. See, yeah, sometimes the reordering can sometimes be a bit flaky. You can see that this is all looking good. And then if I even change this to say 2 columns, it'll separate out into 2 columns. If I set it back to 4 columns and hit save, it should be 4 columns wide. Perfect. Look at that. And then best thing about it is because we have the height set as a class, it automatically sets the height. That is awesome. That is cool. That is cool. Okay, I am pretty pleased with that. That is looking good. Okay, so I think we're halfway through this live stream. Let me have a look and see how things are going. Not getting any comments. How's everything else going? Live stream, everything's streaming. So everything's still streaming. Restream, checking. Yeah, everything's still streaming. Okay. Perfect. Everything is still streaming. I think when I do it at night, I get more viewers. But anyway. We can deal with that next time. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much the fix for the card deck. And so essentially we have gone ahead and created a reusable row component. Now, of course, in the perfect world, this row component will allow us to change these options, perhaps through this configuration. We could do things where we can actually define the class. So if we go here, so let me just go here. We could, where is it? Here. So we could put in a text area where you just write these yourself. But to me that is a solution if the person knows about the Drupal, the WordPress, the Bootstrap grid system. But think of this, okay? 9 times out of 10, this will probably be controlled by an actual editor. So unless the editor understands Bootstrap and the grid system, you know, the thing is though, there there are multiple ways that this can be implemented. I'm not going to lie to you. There are multiple ways this can be implemented. So yeah, this is one way, and I will make this code available probably by the end of the week. I really want to get this available out there so people can have a play with it, and so you guys can just have a play with it. Anyway, all right. Now it's part 2, or as the French say, part 2, or part devoir, as they say as well. So now it's time for part 2 of our live stream, and that is implementing a carousel. So if we have a look at this over here, you can see that there's this massive carousel right here. Oops, sorry, just kicked something in the back. So we're not going to implement this absolutely massive carousel here, but what we will do is we will implement, where is my Bootstrap? Bootstrap. Let's go here. What we will implement is, let's go to the latest documentation, type in, Linode, $100 credit. That's pretty good. I've actually been playing around with Linode lately. Pretty good. It used to host WebWash in 2012, a long time ago. So what am I doing? Carousel. All right, search for carousel. So what I want to implement is I want to implement this carousel right here. All right. This is what we are going to implement. Okay, this one. Now, there's going to be a bit of site building, a bit of custom code as well. Let me just take a sip of water so I can start. This one's extra, the top is extra creaky. Okay. Okay, let's jump into it. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to create a custom block type called carousel, and we're going to create another block type called carousel item. Because each carousel item consists of an image, a title, and a description. If we have a look at our site, so let's go back to our site and go to structure, and then go to media types. We could, okay, hypothetically, we could create another media type called gallery or carousel item. But the problem with that is then you have a media type which will then reference another image, because you may want to reuse an existing image to be part of the carousel. We could use the image. That's one option. We could reuse the image and just put in a title and description. That's another option. The problem with that though, and the problem with putting in a title and description just on the image media type is that, first of all, those fields will always be visible for every other component that requires an image. Okay, so that's one thing you need to be aware of. It's going to be visible. And another thing, let's go back here. Let me just refresh. Is that if you go here and configure, you can remove a selected image and you can add a selected image. But there's nowhere to actually modify the field. So if we were to put a title and description field on the media type, there's no way of actually modifying it from this page. The only way you can modify it is when you say upload it for the first time, or you go back through content, media type, and so on and so forth, and modify it from here, which is a pretty crap experience for an editor, because you would want to modify everything through here, through this right-hand side pull-out thingy, okay? That's what you want to do. Now, when I originally implemented this, well, attempted to implement it, I thought, well, this is a perfect use case for paragraphs. So the block type is the carousel, but the individual carousel items, which is essentially a grouped set of fields, you know, a media field, a title field, and a description field, we can use paragraphs for that, because that's exactly what paragraphs is used for. It's great for grouping fields. And I got very close. But there is a bug with it. When I saved the form, I hit this bug. I got a fatal error when I saved the layout, which was a bit of a shame, but I'm sure, this will eventually get fixed. There are patches for it that you can use. And again, if I was building this on a proper, like a full-on production website and I was, and I had to maintain it, I'll probably look at implementing one of these patches. But if you have a look through here, somebody was saying that, yes, the patch works, but then something else, updated the current version to dev version. Yeah. You can see that there's a lot of work on this. So, yeah. Patch 33 supposedly works. Where's it? Patch 33? Yeah, there's a bit of magic happening here. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the great things about Drupal, and what you need to sometimes think of is like, do you take this patch and just because Composer makes it easy to patch things, and don't get me wrong, I am all for just popping in a little patch in Composer because it's so easy to just pop a little patch in which fixes one particular problem. But then you need to maintain that patch in a way where every single time there is a update to paragraphs, you then need to make sure that the paragraphs has been updated. So what I'm going to do is we're going to utilize two block types essentially. So let's scroll down. I do wonder if this should work for me in the context field of block layout. So they're saying that, confirming that the second patch actually works. I will be curious if that actually works. You know what? Let's try it out. Let's see if this patch actually works. Should I deviate? Should I deviate? All right, let's just give it a go and see. I can quickly see if there's going to be a problem. All right, let's just first go ahead and create our paragraph. Oh no, sorry, let's go create our carousel. So layout, block layout, and let's go block types. Block library. Let's call this one carousel. Can never spell carousel properly. And then click on save. Because paragraphs is a better solution, man. Is a better solution for this. All right, so we've saved that. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's go here. Composer. And where are the patches? Patches. Where do the patches mostly go? Let me have a look at an existing project. Always just check out the existing projects. All right, well, first of all, let's go Composer, require, Drupal. Actually, let's just let's put the patching first. So what I'm going to do is let me just grab it from another project. I just need to find, wait, which project am I looking at? New window. All right, just grabbing this from another project. I always forget where the patches are. Patches. All right, cool. So if I put it under, where is it? It should be under Drupal scaffold. Where's that? Extras. Is that under extras? Patches is under extras. Enable patching. True. All right. Drupal 8 Composer. See, things have probably changed. enable patch. Well, let's do it here. All right, Drupal Composer, Drupal 8 Composer, add patches. All right, let's have a quick look through here. 7 months ago. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is let's add in under extras. Wait, is this one extras? Oh no, here we go. Just have to make sure that I'm in the right section. Yep, I'm in the right section. Okay. There should be some more documentation on this. No, here we go. Better example. Packages, existing. Example. Just having a look through here because we have changed the composer one. So if I apply. All right. Let's forget about it. I really don't want to mess it up at this point. Anyway, what we're going to do. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to take another approach because I'm just not comfortable with using this patch at this point because I know if it doesn't work or in the future it's broken, people will be asking. Oh, why is it broken, this and that. So I need to kind of maintain it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a different approach. We're going to use another block type called carousel item, and we're going to use inline entity form. Inline entity form? Yeah, inline entity form. Inline entity form allows you to add in inline entities. Add entity forms inline, okay? So let's just download. Let's go ahead and first download, where is my Composer? So Composer require Drupal / inline entity form. So just give that a second to just go in and download. And then let's just wait for that. And in the meantime, what we need to do, inline entity form, perfect. So Composer's extra fast today, which is great. Absolutely great. And then once that's done, we can create all of our things. All right. So let me just open this up. So I've got this in a nice sized window. Let's just give that a second. Come on, Composer. Don't fail me now. Don't fail me now. All right, thanks. Somebody's commenting. Thanks. Great tutorials. Okay, don't fail me now. Okay. Done. All right. Sweet. All right. Now, what we need to do is let's go ahead there. So let's create another carousel item. It's a carousel item and click on save. And this one will have a few fields. So let's remove body. We don't need it. And let's click on add and then title, because the title will be this field here. Oh, wrong one. And let's just leave that as it is. The next one is image. Now, do I have an image field? Okay, I do already have an image field, so we can select and reuse that. Sorry, it's not an image field. It is an image media field. Okay, image media field. Okay, so I've selected that. And then the last one is a caption. So we do have this formatted long, but it's got a CK editor in it, and I don't want that. I want plain long. So this will be caption. And then click on save settings. Okay. And then let's just reorder the field. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of description. So we don't need it because that just really annoys me that I have to enter in a description every single time. And then move image to the top, select media library. And let's just change number of rows, for the caption to 3, and then click on save. Okay. And now let's go to Carousel. And what I'll do in the meantime in this browser, I will install Inline entity form. And click on save. So that will go ahead and install that. And let's go back to block library. Block types. And let's go and manage our carousel. Remove body because we don't need it. It's been installed, perfect. And then what we can do is we can click on then add field, and this time we will select reference. Under reference, select other, and we'll call this one carousel items, plural. And then under, what is that? Type of item to reference, select custom block. And then let's make it unlimited. So we can select unlimited custom blocks. Click on save field settings and then select carousel item. And let's make that required. Okay. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. We are getting there. So now let's open up another tab and I'll just show you, bits and pieces as we're building it out. Let's click on layout and then I will say add block there. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Click on add new custom block. We can select carousel item. I think there is a module to hide it. We can hide it, but let's just select carousel and you can see that, yeah, the UI could do with a bit of a fix up, but for now we'll just leave it. So here we have just an autocomplete field, but that's not a real good solution. And that's why we have inline entity form, because what we're going to do now is we're going to set up inline entity form to display the card carousel item, or sorry, the card carousel form inside of this form. Okay. So we're going to do that. Let's go back here and then we'll select inline entity form complex, and then in the cogwheel let's select, well, let's allow new and don't worry about existing items, and I think that is about it for now. And let's click on save. And then if we refresh, and then we click on here, go carousel, you can now see that we have this inline form. You could do a bit of styling to kind of break things out. But if we select, say, add media, we can select from the existing media and we can just add in another item, okay? Let me now see if can I actually select the label? Override labels. Ah, here we go. Override labels. What item and items? We'll see if we change this singular label. So if we hit save and then go here, carousel, create item. Okay, cool. So here you have create item. Okay. All right. So now let me put in, I'm trying to think. Let me create a better, let me just reuse these images so I don't have to upload another image. Okay. So let me put this in carousel. Now you can hide these titles, carousel. Now there is a comment here, is production, so is layout builder, is it ready for production? Yes and no. That's the best way to answer it. Yes, it's ready for production if you're willing to put the time in. For basic layout, so is layout builder ready for production? Yes, for very basic layouts. That's pretty much the answer that I can really give you. And if you want to put in the time to make sure everything works perfectly. So let's put in this here, carousel item So carousel item 1, and then carousel caption, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me just pop this in here. Caption, and then if I click on add media, I can select, say, card 1. All right, and then I can add the item. I can add a new item. Let me select card 2. And this one is, what is it? 2. And then let me just put in caption as 2. All right, you probably can't see that. I am putting it, just notice that you probably can't see that, but I'm just adding it in there, right below, so just under there. But don't worry, it's the same way of entering things in. So here, I've got it here on the side. If I click on edit there, I can just make changes and then just click on update. Okay. And then the good thing about it is you can reorder things, and then just click on, the most important thing is to click on add block, which is just there. All right, so you can see that there's nothing there happening right now, but we have worked on the content model. The content model's there, we're storing the data, and then now, if we go in here, go to structure, block layout, custom block. Why the hell is it doing that? Yeah, Drupal sometimes gets to be funny. You can see the duplicate titles. Let's just do a cache rebuild. You see here the duplicate buttons. And does that get rid of it? Ah, see. Drush CR, solution to all of life's problems. You can see that now the 2 carousel items have been added here. So that's one thing to be aware of, is that a block added to an inline, as an inline block, doesn't appear on this page, but these carousel items, because they are non-inline blocks, will appear there. And this is where paragraphs is a better solution. But yeah, the fact that you need a patch for it, I really don't want to commit to that. Especially now that I haven't tested it out. But this is just one way of doing it. And it is a pretty good solution, in my opinion. The UI needs a bit of fixing up. But other than that, it is pretty good. So let me just see. Wait, can I turn off my... No, I can't do that. All right, cool. All right, cool. So I can turn off my, my actual webcam so I can show you how things are working. On the side, because it's all covered up. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to actually implement this markup. So if we go have a look here, we need to implement. So let me go in here, grab this. I like to just grab this. What is it? Edit HTML. Grab all of that. Let's pop this in there. Let's create a new, what is it? Scratch pad. No. How do I create a new scratch pad in? New scratch file, there we go. HTML. Pop that in there. And we need to implement all of this. So let me just break this up. So these are the controls. So these are the controls here. Get rid of that. And we have our items here, and then we have our inner workings with our actual inner items over here. Now, what we need to do is we need to now generate the markup out of Drupal so it follows this. Most importantly, it sets this up, it sets this up. We need to change these items. So this ID needs to match. So if you have a look here, it has to match across all of here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a layout to handle this, a custom layout. That's probably the best way of doing it. And so what we'll do is let's go ahead and copy and pretty much just create a layout like we did just previously. Okay. Well, let me just cancel that. So let's go here and create a layout first. And this one will be called, well, let's just copy this. This one can be called Carousel. If I can spell, I can never spell it right. Carousel. And then let's just replace wherever it says carousel with this. Okay, simple. Done, done. And we're going to keep everything the same, but we're going to get rid of this because we don't need to implement a custom class. If you don't select a custom class, then it just defaults to the normal class. So we don't have to worry about that. And that's pretty much it. And what we then need to do is just copy and replace this. Terrible, terrible. Carousel. Copy that. Add that in. Hit refactor, and paste this in. No. Do that there. Okay, make sure this is a dash, not an underscore. Carousel and dash. Okay, and that's it. And let's remove row. All right, it's not necessary. All right. Okay. So you can see that once you have created a layout, it's all just copy and paste, and that's the thing with like Drupal site building. Once you figure it out once, just copy paste everywhere. Okay. So we've created this. Let's now just pop in a bit of magic in here so I can see that it's actually getting picked up. Do a cache rebuild. And so then there's a bit of background noise. I hope there's not much background noises. I do not know if the front door is open. Let me just message somebody to tell them to close the front door. If it's open. All right, so there is a bit of background noise. Anyway, let's see. Anyway, I just sent a message. All right, let's just now make sure that this is all working. So let's go back here, sorry. Cache rebuild. And then if we come along to here, go manage display. So here we're on the carousel, manage display. And then if we select from this drop down, we should see BS carousel. Awesome, it's being picked up. If you can't see it here, make sure you do a drush rebuild. Everything is working. That is great. Let's just make sure everything is working. Okay. Yep, everything's working. And what I like to do is, especially when I'm trying to implement markup, I would often when I'm working on a website and we're doing like, style guide driven development, we have the markup already there and ready to go. And so we just need to match things up. So what I like to do is I like to just grab that markup. So where is that markup? Oh, it's actually in here. We're in a scratch file. Grab this, okay, and then just dump it in here. And just chuck it in there. Because this being Bootstrap, it should work. There should be a carousel. Should, okay? All right, so it should appear. So now if we refresh and then go to here, there should be a carousel. Oh yeah, okay, it's there. Now the good thing about it is that resizing works. We can't click on show next and all that from in here, but if I was to save the layout, you can see it's working. Okay, it's there, which is great. It's exactly what we want. It's working. If we resize it, you can see that if we resize it, the title and description disappear. So see, you have the title and description there. If you resize it, it disappears. Okay, cool. So it's working, which is great. That is honestly, when it comes to implementing these type of things, step one is just getting it to work with the static content. That is step one. All right, so the next thing to do is now plug everything in. All right, get all of this generated. So that is this, that, We need to make all of this dynamic. This needs to change as well. So all of this needs to be fixed up. So the first thing we need to do is we need to sort out this carousel item. So we need to clean up the markup so it's as pristine, as clean can be. So what I'll do is let's first go here, and first thing we'll do is let's set that to hidden. So now we're on the carousel, the carousel view mode. Let's render the carousel items, and let's set the field template to full reset. Okay, so we're going to do a full reset, and let's just leave that for now because this is a good way of testing it. We won't actually use this this field, but it's just a good way to test things out. And then now, if we go to open up a new tab, go to block types, and then click on manage display on the carousel item row. Let's set all of this to hidden. And then, well, let's move that down. And what we want to do is render the image, because the image is a media entity. And so we're going to use bare. So the bare view mode we created last week, which is a stock standard, well, the view mode that strips all the markup out, so you only have the image, the image element. And then let's just do a full reset. And then the next thing we need to do, if we have a look at our markup, let's have a look. So we're going to handle this part. This is what's going to be handled by the actual carousel item. At first, you would think, well, we need to add this in as well, but no, this will be handled by the actual layout, because we need to programmatically set this active class on the first item. With the Bootstrap Carousel, you need to set the active class or the carousel won't work. So unfortunately, we need to generate this part, and that's it. It's all we need to generate. So what we also need to now do is wrap title and the paragraph with this, okay? With this element. So the same way that we used field group last week, we're going to use field group here. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead here and add new field group, select HTML element, call this one, what is it? Carousel, what is it? Caption? Yeah, it's carousel, just caption. Call it caption. And then in the classes, we just need to add this in. Just add this caption in. And then, so that's that part. And then let's just move this up, pop it down, and then all these items can pop in. And then just click down and click on save. Sometimes the order can be a bit finicky, so you need to save it a few times. Okay, so that's fine. If we have a look at everything, so we're putting that in. Now we need to sort out this title. So if we have a look at our markup, it is just an H5. So let's come back here and let's change it to expert, and then set field item and change the element to an H5. This is all display suite configuration. We did all this last week, so for people who weren't here for last week, this is all display suite. And then for caption, let's just do, I'm not sure if a paragraph tag wraps it. Anyway, let's just pop this in for now. Expert, and let's just do that, and let's just save that. And then if we go to the home page, I'll be curious to see what this all looks like. All right, what's happening here? This isn't quite right. Right, it's kind of working. Oh, come on. Come on, Firefox. So we have a look here, caption. Okay, this is kind of working. It is wrapping these items, but it's not. Why is this working? Okay. All right, so we need to get back. So I'm not sure why this isn't working. Expert. We saved a carousel item. Oh, this needs to be set to reset as well. Let's change that to reset. Oh, that's another thing I should mention, that I think these field templates can only be used if you've selected a display suite layout down at the bottom. What's happening here? All right, let's just fix this up. Expert. Field group. Yeah, I know what the problem is. This needs to come back up. Save. Save that. All right, let's just delete. I guarantee you it's this. It's this. Yep. Let's add in that caption back again. Well, let's go back here. Make sure field selection. Yep. All right, let's just save this and let me just make sure this is looking good. Why isn't it displaying the image? All right. Yep. That's good. That's good. Oh, okay. This needs to be selected again. So then we come along here for reset, hit save. And then let's just hit save. And then if we refresh, this is coming up nicely. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, this is exactly what we want. And last but not least, let's add in the new elements. Call this one caption and enter this one in. Okay, and let's enter this in. And just pop in these classes. Perfect. Pop these ones in. And then just pop those in. Pop that in. Make sure that's all in. All right. Click on save. Are we finally done? Hit refresh and we should see. All right. It's kind of working. Kind of. All right. So this is exactly the markup we want. So we have wrapped title and the description and title with this class. And then you have just the image field. Okay. You have just the image field here. Okay. That's what we want. Now we need. So we have done this part, okay? We've done this part. The layout will handle this div because as I was mentioning, it needs to automatically handle and add in the active class. And it's just easier to do it at this level than to track it down multiple levels. Okay, so that's the important thing. All right, so we're getting there. All right. So the next thing we need to do is write a bit of code, okay? Unfortunately, we have to write a preprocessor because what we want to do now is we want to grab the carousel items from the entity reference field on the carousel block type and then simply render them out using an array. And then we can also count up, because we also need to count up the number of items and then populate this. So we're going to have two loops in this Twig file, which generates this, and then of course, which generates this down here. And the best way of doing that is to use a preprocessor. All right. Now, last week I covered this little trick with using Twig Debug. So you'll see here in the markup, all right, we just have markup and that's it. But you don't know where these templates are coming from. So if you search for, what is it, Drupal, Twig Debug, go into the first element, the first page, and then open up your services.yaml. So let me just grab this and I will open up my services.yaml. And then if I come, why is it sites? Now, because I've set up the local settings, this now pulls in this development.services.yaml. And all I need to do is pop this in here. Now, one thing to be aware of is that every single time you run Composer, if we have a look in here, it always copies a new version of the development.services.yaml. So every time you run Composer, you have to add it back in, which is a bit annoying, but hey, yeah, that's just a situation. I can probably look into it and debug it why, but I can't be bothered right now. So if I add this in, do a drush rebuild, this twig twig.config debug. You can also do things where it doesn't cache the Twig results. The Twig template, but that really slows things down, like really slows things down. So if I hit refresh now, we should see. Let's give that a second. All right, now you can see all of this markup here telling you where the template's coming from. It can be a bit cumbersome, as you can see here. There's a lot of comments. Really, there's a ton there. But the one that we want is if we scroll all the way to the top. So where is this layout? Layout. So you can see here. Here? Yeah. So theme function. Is it carousel? Bootstrap? Yeah. All right, cool. I'm just looking at a few things. Templates. What did I call it before? Underscore. All right. So you can see here, okay, it's picked up this template and it's telling us where it's coming from, which is great. And then you also have these options here. So we can override. The good thing about the template system in Drupal is that you can override and say, okay, well, I do like this layout, but I want to change the layout when it gets used just on, a particular view mode, for example. I want to tweak it. You can do that. That is the whole suggestions and the whole overriding and things like that. But what we want to do is we want to implement a preprocessor. And so the best way to figure out how to implement a preprocessor is to look at this, okay? So this tells you right here. So what we need to do is we need to implement a hook preprocess, then layout BS carousel. So let me just double check a few things here. So let me go modules custom, because it is it this one or is it this one? Anyway, let's just give it a test and see. Let's just give it a test and see. That's my recommendation. Sometimes it can be difficult to figure out where the template's actually getting used or what the template is. So let's go in function dub bootstrap for layout. Preprocessor, and then it will be, let's try, what is it? Layouts, the hook. Let's just grab this and see. May be right, may not be right, but we can easily just check that. Let's pass the variables. I do apologize if there's background noises. Okay. Pass this in. Of course, I have to start doing this right as I'm recording. Okay, so I'll try and drown out the background noise. All right, so what I like to also do is type in test background. All right, sorry, not background. Do all this. Pop a preprocess. Pop a breakpoint in there. Do a drush CR. And then if I go ahead and pop a breakpoint in there, variables, this should work. Or maybe I just need to change this, but that's fine. We can figure all that stuff out. That's all correct. Come along here. Pop a breakpoint. Listen on. Let's see if this actually works. And the survey says, all right, cool, it's picked up. All right, and you can straight away see here that it's picked up. All right, perfect. So what we need to do now is we need to, so there's a comment here. Do I plan to cover Drupal commerce? Yes, maybe in the future. Yeah, I need to learn it. That's pretty much the answer. So if we have a look here, okay, so what we essentially need to do now is we need to load up out of the content, we need to load up this entity. So this is the carousel entity, and then we need to grab the carousel items from this entity. And then we need to just do a few things like create a variable which has the loaded entity, okay? And then the carousel items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off. And let's first start off by putting in an if statement and then, okay, variables, and then what is it? Content, and then it was hashtag entity. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's actually a block content. So we can do an instant of, and then it'll be block content. I believe that is it. It's hard to see. Yep. Okay. So this will make sure that this entity is a block content. So just in case they pass in some node or something. All right. Now, of course, that does kind of hard code this layout to only be used on block content. You can change it. You can tweak it. You can change this to be editorial. It has to be an instant of editorial. You could say it needs to be an instant of content entity base. You can do all that type of stuff. All right. But in this case, we're just going to say, okay, yep, this layout is only for the carousel block type. All right. So now once we have that, what we can then do is, let me just copy that. I can then get access to the block layout. Okay. And then another thing I like to do in PHP Storm is to tell it. So what is this? Block. So block content. Is this it? No, not that. So that block content. There we go. So now, in PHP Storm, what this does is that now what I can do is, because PHP Storm now knows which class this variable's for, I can do things like block, and then it will automatically show me all the methods in this class. Because if I was to do this, then it won't show me anything. Okay, it's a little top tip. All right, so now what we can do is let's put another breakpoint in there and let's see what we have. Okay, let's see what we have. Pop in a little breakpoint, turn on the listener, pass it through, have a look, give it a second. All right, so it comes in through here because this is a block type. You can see here, what is it? Content entity. And you can see, where is it here? Entity is an actual block type. Grabs that, and then we continue on. Then we have where is it? Block. We can see now this block variable is the actual block. Okay, perfect. This is the carousel, not the carousel items. Now we need to get the carousel items. Okay, so we're kind of there. We're halfway there. Now we need to get the carousel items. So the best way of doing that is to write another if statement. So let me just write another if statement. So if block get, now the field is, what is it? Field carousel. I'm going to spell this wrong. I'm going to spell it wrong. Carousel items. But what we can do is there is a method we can use, and that is empty. So we first want to make sure that it is not empty. That items are that there are actual items there. Then what we can do is we can type in carousel items, and then block, and then let's just grab, just copy paste this again so I don't have to type it. And then it is referenced, what is it? Items. So let me just grab, what is it? Referenced entities. So now we're just grabbing the referenced entities that are part of that reference. All right. And so then, if everything is working correct, let's see. All right. Again, do another cache rebuild. And this is why you should use an Xdebug. Like, use Xdebug, use it. I know a lot of people use Kint and Devel and all that. And honestly, one of the tutorials, I think the how to debug in Drupal 8, where I show you how to do like where I show you how to use like Kint and all that, which just prints out variables and things like that. That is one of my highest traffic pages on the site. But I haven't used Kint for years now. I very rarely use it because I use Xdebug for absolutely everything, because it just makes life so much easier. All right, so we go here, we run this, let's see what comes up. Give it a second. All right, that's coming up, cool. Come along here, returns true, and then now we should get the reference. No, we have an error. Undefined function string. What's happening? That is not correct. Oh, sorry, it's not reference. It's referenced. All right, so there's a question here. Yeah, you can skip drush CR. Well, not quite, because the drush CR is there because we're in a pre-process and I've got caching turned on. The pre-processed rendered results are cached. So that's why I'm doing it. All right, I think this is referenced. There we go. Oh, well, there you go. You found it. All right, so let me turn that stuff off. Do a cache rebuild. Give that a second. And then let's just hit this and let's open this up. Give it a second. Come in through here. Boom. Okay, so we've got that. Perfect. Now we have our two entities. Okay. Now we have our two entities, and that is exactly what we want. Now, some people might look at this and be like, well, you can get the variables and things, the rendered arrays from the actual field. And yes, you can. If we come here, what is it? Come here, you can get it, you can see it. What is it? Field carousel, things like that. But it's actually very annoying to deal with this because I want to get these items, and there's just a lot of muck and all that stuff. So the annoying thing about that is, yes, I can get access to it, but what I'm going to do is it's just easier for me to just query this stuff and pull in that information. So at this point, we have our items in these carousel items. And this code, I actually use this code a lot, believe it or not, because it is what's required to make sure you're pulling in the right items, you're pulling in the right content. You want to also make sure that the field isn't empty, or you'll get, or if you were to run something like this and you don't have any reference items, you could get an exception or something, like you could get a fatal error. So at this point, we have loaded it up. The next thing we need to do is we have this loaded content. Do we have it here? Yeah. So we have this loaded content, but we now need to convert this into a render array so we can actually get rendered. Okay? That's the most important thing. It has to actually get rendered. So what we're going to do is, let me just close this off. And I need to, well, first of all, let's create a variable here that's available. So this can be, what is it? Item count. So what is it? Count equals that. Carousel. All right. So now this is going to be just returned, just passed through in as a count, because we need to know the number. Because we will be looping up the top there. Well, do we need to do it? No, actually, I think we don't. I think we don't need it. Let's leave it out for now. Well, let's just leave it out for now. Okay. And then we need to render this array, because if I was to do this, okay, well, let's just go ahead and create a for each. So I can't spell for each. So carousel items as item. And then I want to add this to a variable. So I'll add items. Okay. And then let's just do this. All right. Another thing we need to do as well is we need to add in another variable, which just has the ID. Carousel. What is it? Carousel ID, and then this will just be, what is it, equals block, and then ID. Now I'm sure you could get it through Twig, but Twig is okay, but I just can't be bothered searching for things in Twig. I feel as if sometimes you spend like 20 minutes trying to find something in Twig, when if you're already implementing a pre-process, just implement a custom variable. Okay, so at this point, all right, let's just leave that as it is. And let's go back into our layout. And what we can do is let's change this to, let's just change that to carousel dash, and then what is this? What will this be? carousel ID. Okay. So now, every single time this gets generated, we can have a separate carousel. Okay. And this is good because this allows you to then add in multiple carousels on a single page. We could use the UUID as well. It's up to you. Okay. It's purely up to you. And then if we come along here, so let me just get rid of this. So where's this? Get rid of that. Don't need that. And let's get rid of that. And let's move this up a little bit so I know. So that's that part. What's this part? All right. And that's that part. All right. Because we need to now do a for each in Twig. So if we have a look in here, type in Twig loop. All right, let's have a quick look. I kind of know the markup for it. Okay, so it's essentially this. Let's just grab this. So this will be something like so. Because we are passing in an array, if we go back to our module, we're passing in this items array. If we have a look in here, what we need to do is type in items, and then it is item, it loops through, and then item, okay? So then it will loop out and loop and show us that stuff. So let me just do a drush cr. Come along here, and let's see what happens. Let's see the errors. There will be errors, because what we need to do is we need to generate a render array. At this point, we have the loaded entity, but we don't have the render array. So there are a few things we need to do. So let's look for, what is it? Entity view, which I believe is deprecated. So if we go have a look here, you pass in, so you can see here, it is deprecated. So you shouldn't use entity view because as of Drupal 9, it should be gone. It will be removed out of Drupal 9. And Drupal 9 is getting released in 2 weeks, remember? Well, 1st of, 1st of June. And luckily, we do have this example here. See, this is one of the things I was mentioning. I can easily remember the function name, entity view, but all of these functions are getting deprecated. And now we need to use these services. Now tell me, what's easier to remember, entity view or absolutely everything here? I don't know. That's my opinion. That's probably why I like Drupal 6 and 7. Don't get me wrong, the code base for Drupal 8 is amazing, but yeah, it's just there's just so much more code to remember. All right, so let's go here. So the best thing to do is just to grab this bit of code, and then if we paste this out, fix this up a little bit, and let's just change this to, what is it, item, remove lang code because that is passed in, I believe, as null, and the view mode is full, which is correct, so we don't have to customize that. So then all we need to do is then pass this there. So what happens here? We have the loaded entity. We then need to use this view builder. So we need to grab this view builder service. We need to then load up the view builder service just for this entity type, and then we need to pass in the entity to this view method. Now, of course, if I was to use a different view mode, such as carousel item small or something, I can implement that in here, carousel, carousel item, whatever, but the default one is full. So if I click on it, okay, you can see here, default one is full, and language code, well, I'm not using language code on here, that is also there as well. So, but I don't have to worry about that. All right. Okay. So we're slowly getting there, slowly. So that's done, and let me just rebuild. And then now, this is the pistol resistance. All right, let's jump in and refresh. Hopefully there's no error this time. No, there won't be. We'll see. Give it a second. All right, so it's coming along. All right, so it's actually loading up, which is correct. But if we have a look at the markup, let's have a look. I'm interested in the actual markup. So this is getting rendered. All right, cool. It's getting rendered. Now, we need to come back into our layout, and we need to wrap this. Well, actually, I am missing something here. I think I've deleted something. Let's just go back. Let's do a big. Oh, no. Okay, that's good. All right, let's pop this in. No, what is it? All right, that's there. So that's all there. Perfect. But one thing we need to do, oh yes, we need to also fix this up as well. So we need to loop through these markers as well. So let me just copy this. And so it's gonna come along here. But one thing we need to do, okay, is we need to set an active on the first item only, just on the first item only. And luckily for us, if we go to Twig, we can actually, there is a variable called index, and then it will tell us, well, no, actually we want to use this one, loop.first. So this will tell us that it is on the first iteration. So on the first item, we want to add the item class. So all we need to do now is add a condition where it adds in the active class if the loop.first is true. So let's try that. So let's go here, add this in. So loop. So loop.first. So loop.first, let me move that across so you can see it. So loop.first, question mark, active. All right, so that's the first one. That should work. So if it's a first loop, then put the active. And let's do the same here as well. Now, another thing we need to do is we need to generate this slider. Because if we have a look at the scratch pad, where is that scratch pad? Here. No, it's not here. All right, cool. You'll see that every item is just incremented from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? For that, let's go back here. For that, we'll use the index. So this will just print out the index starting at 0. And then, so all we need to do, loop dot index 0. Cache rebuild. Let's see if this works. This should work. Let's just fix that up. Okay, we're finally there. We're nearly there. We are nearly there. Okay. Refresh. Hit the refresh. And now, okay, so what we need to do, well, let's have a quick look. So something's happening. We have our captions. We have our class items, which is correct. Okay, so we have all of these, which is great. Okay, we have that. We have, where is the active? All right, so active is there. Active is there. Perfect. Okay, this is all getting set. But it's still rendering out the content, okay, which is kind of breaking things. So it's still rendering out the content. So let's pop this. Let's grab this. Where is the content? Okay. Let's say this is another Twig-ism. So what we're going to do is we're going to say without. Oh no, not that. So carousel items. So it'll display all other content, all the other formatters, but without the carousel items. And then if we click on reload and then refresh, let's see what happens this time. Okay, so something is not up. So you can see here. Oh, okay, I know what the problem is. So that is the image. Okay, so it is technically working, but it is the image that is not working. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's add this into a 2-column grid. It's there. Trust me, it's there. So let's create a new section. And there are modules to actually hide this stuff, so you can hide layouts that shouldn't be used. Let's add in a 2-column grid. And let's move that up there. No, not there. All right, add that there. And then if we scroll to the top and click on save, you'll see that buttons is still there. All right, so it's kind of working, but you can see that the button is there, but it's just out of frame. And that is because the image, the actual image here has a fixed width. So if we add in image, what is it, fluid, I believe? What's the class? Let's go here. What is it? Row.css. No, that's not it. Card. IMG fluid. Yeah, why isn't that working? Oh, that is the max width. Okay, so I think we need to increase the size of these images in the image style. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go here. And give that a second. Go to image styles. Large. And let's change this to... no, the W100 sets a width, and he doesn't stick to the correct aspect ratio. Yes, you can use W100, but that's a hard width, and he actually skewers and breaks the aspect ratio. So what is it? No, 1080. Yeah. So wait, I know. What is it? 1920? Is it 1920? Oh, damn it! What is it? 16:9. Images. 1920. See, if you add in, now be careful. Yeah, be careful with the W100, because if you add that in, let me pop that back there. It breaks the aspect ratio. It just stretches it because it sets a width, not a max width. That's the huge difference. So it kind of skewers your images. Yeah, that's one thing I discovered. So what we want is, we essentially need to make these images bigger. That's the first thing. So 1920 by 1080. That's fine. Come in here. And as long as your images are larger than your wrapping container, you're fine. So now if we go refresh, I mean, why the hell is that happening? 1920. All right, so that's good. Image. Then we'd have to do image fluid, I believe. Is that it? Something is up here. Something is not correct. Anyway, let's just quickly look through this. All right, let's just do a refresh. All right, let's just do a fluid. Am I spelling that right? I'm probably not. IMG fluid. And it's not even setting that. Okay, need to look into that. All right, cool. So what we're going to do. Oh, of course. I'm not on the right one. Okay, let's do that again. That's a problem with carousels. They keep changing. All right, there you go. All right. So what we're going to do now let's fix this up, and we can fix this up using Sass. So I've set that up. Let's go here. And let's add in another carousel. And then carousel.css. Let's grab this. I'm not going to copy it exactly, but I will get rid of that. And this is, I don't know, what's the markup? Carousel item, is it? Carousel item, yep, that's it. All right. Alrighty. So go in there, add that in, add carousel, and then let's go in here and do a watch. So now I'm just compiling it. Okay. And then we refresh. We have nice carousel. Perfect. And then I can resize it. And then when I resize it, you'll notice that the title and description should disappear. There you go. So when it's on smaller, and the reason for that is because we're utilizing, where is it going up. I think it's, yeah, these type of responsive classes, so that it is display none, and then on the mid size, on the medium breakpoint and up, it then becomes a block, which means display. So that is pretty much it. So now, if we have a look at this, you can do some pretty cool things. You could actually, switch this to full screen, and it's looking good. You could even move it to the next one, to the next section, but because the next section is a 4-column wide, it's not going to fit, but it will slot nicely in. I can even change this row, and this is why the row is such a powerful component, is that it actually makes life so much easier. It's very versatile. We can change it to 3-column wide, and then if I save, of course you may not want it this small, but it's there. You can do it. You can resize it, and then if we add in another section, we can chuck in a nice big slideshow, because everyone likes a big slideshow right on the homepage. Move it up the top, and then just give it a second. It resizes, save the layout, and bang, there you go. You have a nice little homepage slideshow. And because we're using the row layout, we have margin down at the bottom, which just gives us a bit of margin. And then if we resize, it's looking good. Okay. So we've done that by using the block types, and yeah, by creating 2 custom block types. But in a perfect world, I'd prefer to use paragraphs for the actual carousel component. But yeah, you've got that patch. So I think that is it for this live stream. We are 2 hours and over 2.5 hours live, which is great. Oh, great. So next week, I need to figure out what we're going to be talking about next week. But I think we're going to have to move to a bit more site building-ish type of things, because we do have a proper site to build. Where is mine? Do I have it somewhere? Let me have a look. So we've done the fun part. Now we need to do these blog pages with views, and we need to get away from probably layout builder and kind of implement these pages. Also implement roles, also editor stuff in the editor we can do. We can embed assets using media module. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can do. Yeah, because I would like to get a working website out of this. It's not going to look great because I'm not a designer. It's not going to look great at all, but it'll work. We can do things. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff we can set up. We can use web form to create these type of pages. So thanks everyone for joining. I know this is a different time. than usual. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff we can do. Anyway, I guess that is it for me. I will be creating show notes. Give me a few days to create show notes. I mean, the show notes for the last one. So if you do want to catch up on last week, so if you just go to webwash.net, if I can spell it correctly, normally can't. There are show notes here, so there will be show notes for this one, but I actually thought these show notes would be very simple and short, but they end up being 1,400 words. There's a lot of steps involved, and there may not be as many steps for this one, but I will show you the steps on how to create all of this, and I will try and this week get a copy of this website onto GitHub, and hopefully you can just run a command and it spins up a site for you locally using Lambda or something, using some type of Docker thing. I need to learn that stuff. Anyway, that is it for me. If you want to learn more about Drupal, just head over to webwash.net. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch you all next time. Okay, that is it.